So I will introduce myself for those of you who are tuning in here. So my name is Steve O'Gallagher. I have been working at justeattakeaway.com for 3 years now. I joined as an engineer and I've transitioned since then into a community advocate role, which I enjoy very much. And we're here to talk in a kind of casual fireside chat way about how we foster a culture of growth through learning in tech here at justeattakeaway.com. And we have with us our special guest here in Sasha Zvetelman. Sasha, could you please introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background as to
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve, for your warm welcome. As you said, my name is Sasha. I'm originally from Argentina. I've been at Jet for 3 years this month, actually, which is quite an achievement for me. And I'm enjoying it very much. So, like I said, I'm from Argentina originally. I started in the industry when I was quite young. So basically, right after I graduated from high school, I joined a very small software development company. Of course, my skills and my knowledge were very limited back then. But well, I started working in this company, and by coding and working on real projects, I started enjoying it a lot. And even though I was studying music back then, hence this drum kit here, I decided, hey, this thing about coding, I really like it. So I decided to start studying software engineering, at university full time. So I was studying and working full time. I did it for a few years. And well, of course, I was changing jobs in between, work for different companies back home in Argentina. And as people say, climbing up the ladder, getting into more senior engineering positions, let's say. After that, I decided to move to London. That happened when I graduated from university back home. I moved here to London 6.5 years ago, approximately. And here I work again for different companies, having different roles, some as a senior engineer, some as a development manager, looking after several teams, up to 25, 30 people. And I also did a master's degree here in London in business management and innovation.
You've been very busy.
I joined Jet. Yes.
That's a lot. Well,
wonderful.
did you join? So yes, as justeattakeaway.com, we simplify that to the word Jet because it's quite a mouthful if you say it several times a day, as we do as we work there. So if you hear us say Jet, we're referring to justeattakeaway.com. So when you joined Jet, did you join as the role that you have now, or is that something you moved into?
No, actually, I joined with the same role I'm doing at the moment, which is tech manager, which it's a bit of a hybrid role in my case. So basically, one thing that we do at Jet, let's call it Jet for simplicity, is that you can pretty much tailor your role the way that you want. So one thing I asked before joining Jet was, okay, as a tech manager, can I code? Can I be hands-on? And I remember my manager back then said, yes, up to you. Entirely your call. If you want to, yes. If you don't want to, no. So I said, yes, I want to, because that's what I like doing. I like both parts of being in engineering. I like the management and the people side of things. And I also like, coding, solving engineering challenges. So yeah, I joined with that role. I'm still enjoying it 3 years after that.
Nice. My mind has gone to an interesting point here, which is what I found across engineering. So I was a senior engineer before my role here. We tend to find that after a certain amount of time, you're sort of presented with two options. You either become more and more technical, going towards being like a principal engineer or distinguished expert on the technical side, or you go into management of engineers. Did you find that you had that same kind of crossroad, and how did you balance that decision?
Yeah, good question. And yes, I felt that way as well. I remember years ago when I had like a senior engineering role or similar, my managers would start asking me, okay, so which path are you taking? Like you need to take road A or road B. And for me, it was like, ooh, I think I like the management side of things. So I went for that path, became a few years ago like a tech manager, a team lead, then kept progressing. And as I mentioned before, I became like a development manager looking after several teams. But then I was like, I don't fully enjoy this because I'm too far from the action. Yes, I love the management side of things. I love, working with people is fantastic, but I still miss, the day-to-day coding or at least solving challenges with someone else, pairing and coaching people. So that's when I decided to quit my job, and I went back for a tech manager role. And this is a role I have now, like I said, which is a hybrid. So I think we need to stop forcing people to go one route or the other. There are in betweens. It's not black or white or black. Um, so that's my story, and that's how I see it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because those are becoming engineers. I mean, like I mentioned before, so we came from music and then went into tech. There's
Yeah,
other aspects than purely to tech, and most people that I've discussed with in this industry that are presented with that choice go, "Well, I don't necessarily want to do one or the other. I want to do a mixture of both." And maybe that can help us segue into talking about the culture of growth that we have here at Jet, where you can kind of carve out what works for you and what works for your team and for the company. So, how would you talk about our culture and how it relates to growth and development here? And maybe referencing perhaps the team that you're in and
yeah.
how what they do for the company themselves.
Yeah. So first, maybe let's start from the back. I'll start telling you a tiny bit of about the team that I work in and what we do, and then I will definitely tell you more about how we grow as individuals
Awesome.
within Jet. So basically, well, as I said already 5 times, but just in case, I'm a tech manager, and I work with the what we call the web core team. So we're a big team. We're approximately 25 people, more or less. And we have a couple of tech managers, one senior tech manager, and then we have, of course, engineers, test engineers. We have delivery managers, and etc. So basically, what we do is a few things. So we try to build components that can be used across our different teams within Jet. So some simple components like a button. It can be a more complex component like a modal with a lot of different pieces inside. It can be like a full page, I don't know, a checkout page, or a payment page or whatever it is. So we build these components, making sure that we keep accessibility in mind, best practices, and that these are basically global components in the sense that anyone can use it in any country, right? That's one of the things we do. Then the other thing that we do is we provide guidance. So we research technologies and patterns and trends and put them to the test. So for instance, a couple of years ago, we decided, or we realized we had to transition in terms of technologies from where we were. So we started doing a proof of concept, and we decided to go that, okay, Nuxt is a good technology. It works for us. So, we spent a good amount of time researching the technology, testing it, verifying it serves our purposes, and then start rolling it out. So as part of that, we also do, we support other teams with these transitions to the new technologies that we research. So in some cases, we give people on loan to other teams. So let's say there's a team A that needs some help with some project. We'll send maybe 1, 2, 3 engineers. They'll work with them, then come back. And in some cases, we do the other way around, and we grab projects from teams. We'll implement the project and then hand it over to them. And then one last thing that we do is we many times welcome new joiners that maybe are joining the company but not directly to our team. They spend a few weeks with us. We get them up to speed with how we do things in basically in the web sphere at Jet, and then they can go back to the things they were hired for originally. So we have like many things that we are doing at the same time. So it's a big mission.
Yeah, gosh. What strikes me as well about that is that people, in terms of growth and development and learning, people learn in different ways. And some people will learn really well by experiencing something different and doing hands-on, trying things and gaining experience that way. And it sounds to me like if people can move around between teams, that would really help people that learn in that way. They'll probably gain some new knowledge from another team that they wouldn't if they stayed in the same track, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is optional in a sense. So in a way, so it's not that you are forced to, okay, you need to go to that team and come back to this team and learn this new technology. Normally, the way we do learning at Jet is more driven by the employee. So you own your career, you own wherever you want to go. Okay, so maybe you are interested in certain technologies or certain aspects of software engineering, and you can focus on that. Maybe you're not so interested in other parts, and your colleague will be, So whatever you want to do, as long as it works for the team, as long as it works for the company, it's good.
Yeah, and what's great is I've seen that play out in teams as well, and that what we value is a diversity of ideas and experience and technical abilities. So any team will have someone, as you say, who might be really, really experts in a particular language, and others might be less so, but they can kind of fill that gap and help the team with that area. And other people that have maybe more soft skills, but also some technical experience, can add something else to that as well. Sort of,
So
and those different components can make something truly unique, I think.
yeah, no, I fully agree with you. Yeah.
Nice. And so, what do you love about the culture of Jet in terms of the tech side of things and how we approach things? What do you see as the positives from that aspect?
There are various things. First thing I like is that we're pragmatic about how we do tech. Okay, so our main focus is not to choose the bleeding edge technology, whatever is trendy. Now, we try to choose technologies based on the problems that we need to solve, right? So if we have a good technology that will help us solve problems, we have better products. That means we'll have better user experiences, and our customers will end up ordering more food, hopefully. So it's one thing leads to the other, right? So that's why I was saying that we are not choosing just a technology and going for it. We spend the time researching. We spend the time battle testing that technology. Just because this, let's say, new technology or new trend works for another company, that doesn't mean it works for us. Okay, so that's something I really enjoy about it. On top of that, I do like that we do a lot of knowledge sharing around not just technology, but things in general, Jet. But as part, like I said, as part of our team, we try to teach a lot. So we organize, for instance, monthly events in which we get all the web people to share things. Okay, I learned something new here. Okay, I've done this new component, and this is how you can use it. So we put a lot of focus on this learning aspect.
Yeah, and I see that bear out as well. And when you're talking about choices of technologies that we use, and maybe if it's appropriate, we'll keep up to date, of course, with what's the
Yeah.
bleeding edge of technology, but it might not be the right solution for us. And what I've noticed is that similar to the sharing of information freely amongst people is that recommendations for whether a technology is useful or not can kind of come from any level, right? You don't have
Yeah.
to be a tech manager saying, okay, this is what I think we should do. It can come from the bottom up, as it were, right?
It can, and it's actually encouraged because the closer you are to the code and the where the action happens, the more you know normally. Okay, so yes, I'm a tech manager, and yes, I lead complex projects and large streams of work, definitely. But the engineers who are coding every day, they know much more than me about this. So these are the people who are normally leading these discussions, or at least bringing the discussions to life. So yeah, absolutely. And on that point as well, I think one of the things I like about learning here is that no matter how experienced you are, no matter your job title, you always own something. Okay, you always own a piece of work. So maybe if you're a principal engineer, you will of course own a bigger and more difficult project. But we've had people joining our team as their first job in tech, and within 1 or 2 weeks they would own things. Maybe it's a small thing. Maybe it's okay, we need to change certain label somewhere, but they own that piece of work. So that teaches them, how do you get a change from an idea to production safely? What steps you need to go through? What's the best way to do these things?
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense, and it's certainly positive, and especially I relate to the fact that those that are on the kind of the ground level, interacting with a particular technology or framework, will have a more visceral understanding of the pain points or the benefits of it, and through making a proof of concept, they can either recommend that we continue to use it or improve it or explore somewhere else, and that's good.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
fully.
yeah, and in terms of the ownership side of things, if you imagine if you own something quite small, like all right, we have a button change, you can own that and put that all the way through to production with the right testing and cautious approaches, of course.
Of course.
Then you will learn from that and be able to take on a larger project and that can help people progress
Yeah.
if they choose to become more proficient engineers, for example.
Yeah.
Um, I was wondering, is there another aspect of the tech culture that you think ties into that, and it was related to something we've chatted about before about if there's a problem, because we work in code, nothing's perfect all the time, right? We build in testing to make sure that things are checked and we don't regress our code, but inevitably there can be issues, right? And if something happens that is bug related or some problems, how do we approach that in terms of our tech culture, if you will?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We make a lot of mistakes, all of us. I mean, we're human beings, and that by its very nature, we make mistakes, right? We're humans. And on top of that, software engineering, it's so rapidly changing all the time that you constantly make mistakes. It's just normal. But instead of making a big deal out of it, or instead of pointing fingers, we do complete opposite. So basically, we own and we share our failures and our successes as a team. Okay. So let's have a simple example. Let's say a software engineer made a code change, and that caused a bug in production that cost us money. Okay, it happens. It happens very often. But it's really the responsibility or the fault of the software engineer who made that change? I don't think so. So the way we see this, okay, yeah, this person made a code change, but was this person pairing with someone else? How about the test, the automated test that we have? Why didn't this test catch the issue? How about when we were testing it in different stages or different environments before production? How come we didn't catch this in the release warranty? There's so many steps, so many people involved in these things that it just doesn't make sense. It's unfair to point fingers. So we don't like that culture. We are the complete opposite. That's one aspect of it. So as I said, we own and we share both our failures and our successes. And the other thing is we encourage people to make mistakes. Okay, that's how you learn. You make one mistake, perfect. That's one opportunity to learn something new. So what we ask from people is, if you make a mistake, or if your team makes a mistake, or someone makes a mistake, that's awesome, but learn a lesson. Okay, learn a lesson. So hopefully next time you make a different mistake, not the same mistake. And not only that, you share that with other people, so other people can avoid making that same mistake if possible.
That's a really interesting point, because it might be that the process that we put in place, or let's say the integration that we've set up, might be prone to errors, and maybe that was what caused the issue. And
Yeah,
so the question can be, well, how do we prevent that activity from happening next time? Not putting the blame on the individual, but maybe the process needs to be refined, or maybe we've
absolutely.
discovered some new edge cases that we hadn't considered until we found this bug. So it's really helped us learn more about the technologies we're using and the platform we're building.
Yeah, and on that note, which yeah, absolutely, I fully agree. That's something also we do, and we do it no matter again your job title or how long you've been at the company or the team. So we constantly ask people to suggest new ways of working, suggest improvements that we can make, not just to the code, right, to the process. Is this actually working for us, or this is not? Okay, can we do something differently? Can we try something? It's not. This is another thing. We try a lot of things. It doesn't mean that one thing that we're trying will be there forever. We can try for a few weeks. Does it work? Is it bringing us benefits or not? So that's definitely something that we try to do.
Nice. And in terms of more chat potentially about the kind of personal growth aspect of things. So we talked about how sometimes changing teams can help you learn some new things, or hand-on development, sharing ideas from other people who are more experienced. What are some other ways that you think our culture helps people to grow on a personal level, either in their careers or within teams, that you think are positive here?
Yeah. There's one thing that I really like is that basically you own your career here. Okay, you drive it. You are in the driving seat, and you decide where to take it. Again, as I said before, as long as it works for the team and for the company, then thumbs up. Okay, so for instance, what we try to do is when we set objectives for the year, individual objectives, this is normally driven by the person and not by the manager. Okay, so my manager doesn't come and tell me, okay, Sasha, you need to focus on this, and that, and you need to learn this, and that. It's actually the other way around. It's like, okay, this year I would like to learn this. This is another weakness I have detected, so I want to improve on this. This is actually a strength I have, but I want to continue learning more on that topic. And then my manager will be like, yeah, that's fantastic. How about we try with this tool for learning, or how about you give this a chance? So basically, the manager is there to guide you and not to dictate what you do and you don't do. On top of that, I think we provide a lot of learning opportunities within the company. So I've already mentioned this this knowledge sharing sessions. But one thing that we do is we have study days every year for each person, and it's not that kind of study day that you shouldn't take. It's the opposite. Managers will be like, "Have you taken your study days already? Have you taken your study days?" I just study whatever works for you. As long as everyone benefits from it, just go for it, and you don't need to justify it. It's your career. And sorry, I want to mention one more thing. These objectives that I was talking about, they don't have to be, strictly related to the work you're doing within the company. Some of my team members may have objectives that are related to their careers, but they cannot implement those right now. For instance, I don't know, like we have maybe an associate engineer that they want to get into management in the future. They're not managers at the moment. If you talk about, the ladder, the career ladder, probably you have a few levels until you're managing a team, but they want to already start preparing for that because that's what they care about. That's what they want to do with their career. So we'll definitely support them with that.
That's fantastic. And even if it's not on the kind of soft skills side of things, it might be that a particular, linking back to what we were talking about before, a particular language or framework that we don't necessarily use right now, but if someone wants to learn that, it might be that that will be the language of the future. And then that time they spent learning that helps them better prepare us for using it in future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And technology changes so fast, so
Yeah.
rapidly. You never know what's going to happen. Okay, so when you have a broad understanding of a variety of technologies, of ways of doing things, that's better for you and of course for the company.
Yeah, and for many of us that get into being engineers, we do that because we enjoyed the process of learning how to code and making things and having, trying, oh, that worked. I made a website, made an app. And that process of learning is linked completely to the enjoyment of the coding. And so it makes sense that as we go through our career, we want to continue to learn and feed that kind of part of our brains, right?
Yes.
Um, now,
Yeah.
our so there was a global pandemic last year, which kind of accelerated things, but generally our justetakeaway.com is growing rapidly at the moment. And how do you manage kind of the growth of the culture within that and the growth of teams and what we need kind of resource wise? Like how do you approach the balance of our teams as we continue to grow so much?
Uh, how do we approach that? Well, it's definitely challenging, right? Because, like you said, the company is growing so fast, and we need to adapt to that. So I think, like with everything in life, it's about finding a balance. Okay. Yes, we need to make sure that people are learning things that they care about, that that they enjoy. But at the same time, as I've been saying, we also need to focus on learning about things that we are actually going to be using. Okay. So this again, going back to my previous idea, it needs to work for everyone. Okay, because at the end of the day, what our objective here is to be able to give people options to order tasty food, okay, and restaurants to be able to sell their food. So as long as it serves that purpose and at the same time keeps people happy and learning, then that's great.
A quick reminder for those that are watching, we've got about 5 minutes left of this session, and you can ask questions if you'd like to. You can do that in the chat bar on the side, and we'll try and get to those if we have any. But another question I have in my head is, so it's been an unusual working setup over the last year and a half, obviously with the global pandemic. So there's a lot of remote working, but it has sort of freed up our ability to work across time zones in a way that we weren't as fluid with. What's your experience been of that, especially now that we're this large global entity of JustEatTakeaway.com?
Well, it's been a fantastic experience. Of course, the pandemic has been very painful and difficult for everyone, right? Uh, but I think we made best out of it. Particularly my team, we are split between London and Bristol. Okay, so even before the pandemic, even though we were mainly in the office, we didn't have the whole team in one place. And of course, we missed the social aspect during the last year and a half, not being able to see our colleagues. But I think in a way, this challenge brought also new opportunities. So now it's much clearer that we don't have London and Bristol. We have one team. Okay. So I think it's a good way of taking something not so positive and making it or turning into a good opportunity to improve.
Yeah, that's a good point. Something I've just realized in my head is that when you work in an office for most of the days of the week, you know who is in your office and who's in some other office globally in the company. Whereas when you're working remotely, as we have done, I don't know. I have to ask, like, oh, are you in the London office, the Bristol? I don't
Yeah,
even know, and it kind
okay.
of doesn't matter, right? We can sort of work across those borders, which has been
Yeah,
really great.
absolutely.
Another question I had about kind of personal development and growth, especially from a tech manager point of view. So you're managing predominantly engineers, and predominantly they're going to be interested in the technical side of things. But as you've discovered yourself through management side, there's also the softer skills aspects you can learn. Do you have any kind of advice for anyone who is um, maybe managing some engineers as to how you um, support both them learning exactly what they want to get into technically, but also maybe showing them potentially like their blind spots or some other areas that might help them that they wouldn't necessarily know to choose themselves? Is that a balance you try and steer?
Yeah, for sure. And I think what you mentioned is just very, very accurate. And I think it's very visible many times in software engineering, right? Us software engineers, maybe sometimes we don't have the best soft skills. It's an area that maybe we should improve in general. Many of the software engineers have amazing soft skills, but some of us maybe not so much. So I think it's important that we not only focus on, okay, this is the latest technology, this is new JavaScript framework, but also on the other side, right? Like if you know everything about the technology, but you cannot communicate your ideas clearly, or if you know everything about technology, but then you cannot understand someone else's point of view, even outside engineering, maybe someone from legal or from marketing or from product, then it defeats the purpose. So absolutely, that's one of the things that we try to do. In fact, when we set objectives, at the beginning of the year or at any point during the year, that's something we try to focus on. So let's not just have objectives all around the same thing. Okay, so there are various areas that people can improve on. So let's focus on all of them or as many as possible. And that ties as well with feedback, right? So we are very honest. Okay, when we ask for feedback and when we provide feedback, we need to be honest. We need to, of course, be very careful how we phrase certain things. The idea is not to hurt someone's feelings, but the idea is that we're all here to learn and to improve. Okay, there's no point in saying everything is perfect when there's something that we can be doing better. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And there's an important point in there, which is kind of honest feedback, but with kindness, right?
Absolutely.
And what I love about the culture here is that if everyone is trying to help everyone else become the best versions of themselves by saying, hey, that was great, do more of that, or hey, this is something that maybe you could look at as an improvement, then it means that someone else out there is doing that for you and help. So we grow together in that way, which is
Yeah.
really positive.
And I'm sorry because you mentioned this about everyone trying to, be their best. And I think one really important thing that I wanted to mention and I forgot is that basically here there's no rush to get to a certain position. I worked in other companies in the past in which, okay, how fast you get to certain role in the ladder, that's a good measure of success, right? And here it's the opposite. I've been in the same role for 3 years. No, my manager or the manager of my manager, they haven't been pushing me to say like, hey, Sasha, when are you going to apply for the next role? Or you should be. No, I mean, the idea is as long as you're learning, as long as you're improving as a person and as a professional, as long as you're getting better, then it's good. If you want to, climb up the ladder and keep going, up, that's awesome. We'll support you. But if not, you can stay there. But we need to make sure that you continue, improving and becoming a better professional.
That's great. Lovely to hear. Well, thank you. We're at the end of our half an hour here. Thanks for everyone for watching this. And thank you to you, Sasha, for giving us that amazing insight into your job and role. And thanks to the Next Web for having us here. It's been wonderful to be part of this. Hope you enjoy the rest of the conference you're going to check out and your weekends. Take care of yourselves. Bye
Thank you,
for now.
Steve. Bye, everyone.